Greetings, sailors, and welcome back to World of Warships again. I seem to be not on a roll exactly with doing these live recorded ones, but it's definitely a lot easier to just sit down and blether into a microphone rather than try and get my thoughts ordered about what's going on in a specific replay. This time around I thought I would have a look at one of the upcoming ships. It's not quite a full tech tree yet, in that it's still a preview tech tree, but yeah, there are certainly plenty of these around, and you could get up as far as this without basically splurging lots of cash down to buy more tokens, and yeah, I couldn't be bothered doing that, so I've got this one ship, and I think it's this one that's got the nice camo. I do like this, yeah, it's this one, the Silk Sunrise camo. I do rather like it, and I would quite like to have had it on more of my ships, but that would have involved splurging out lots of money on the preview event, so I didn't really want to do that. And instead, I'm going with whatever camo it was I had before that was giving me lots of Captain XP, and now I've forgotten which one it was. You know what, I'll just put on one of the CC camos that I still have a bunch of, because they have a nice XP bonus, of Commander XP bonus, because this is just the 6-point Commander it came with. And yes, I could use one of my other Pan-Asian commanders with more skill points that's, you know, trained for another ship, but that would kind of, like, I would still have the problem of, well, once the line goes live and they become regular tech tree ships, at that point, do I steal that captain permanently from the other ship, or do I, you know? So I'm just sticking with it and trying to grind the XP on this captain to at least get them to be a 10-pointer, which shouldn't take too long. But even without Concealment Expert, it's still got a very respectable 10.3, and I think that drops by a whole kilometre when it's yeah. And although that does sound very good, you have to bear in mind that this is basically the Atlanta, and it actually has 100 less meters range than the Atlanta. It's got more than the Flint, though. It's sort of it's nearer to the Atlanta than the Flint, even if it is the Flint's gun arrangement. It doesn't have those side turrets that the Flint has, which I can actually show you. I do have the Atlanta, rather, because the Flint doesn't have that. So there we go. So yeah, Atlanta has the extra firepower, basically, and also I think we'll then end up having extra flak damage as a result. I think Flint overall, yeah, Flint's got better continuous DPS from its 40 and 20 mils, but Chumphon misses out a bit on that, so it's slightly ahead of Atlanta, but not really that much. So yeah, this is not really an AA cruiser, even though the Atlantas were in real life. It's probably one of the biggest travesties in this game as for what they did to the Atlantas and how far they are now from what they were actually built for. Rather standard setup, and you saw there for the captain's skills, it's superintendent for the extra smoke. You also get torpedo reload booster, which you might get to use occasionally, but yeah, it's not that useful. Anyway, let's give this a go. Without either Demo Expert or IFHE, I have been struggling a bit with this to have any particular impact. IFHE, I think, was probably the way I would want to go, and sacrifice the fire chance for the extra penetration, because it doesn't have a huge fire chance to begin with. Right, we found a game fairly quickly, and it's actually pretty nice matchmaking. Now, unlike the Atlanta and the Flint, you really don't have the utility they can have, although probably more the Atlanta than the Flint when I say that, because you do have the smokes as the Flint does, but yeah, Atlanta with its radar and its well, it's defensive for whatever that's worth. You know, this has got a defensive too, but yeah, this is definitely more of a selfish HE spammer kind of a ship. You're relying on other people to do the spotting for you. And yeah, you know, you still have those US HE arcs to contend with. Right, if this was me starting on the other spawn area, I think I would probably think this was a decent map, but the question is, where do I want to go? If I park myself in the middle, I would actually be able to cover both caps just, but not necessarily fire too much beyond them. There is one area where this is sort of better. You've got longer range torps. You've got these 10.5 kilometre torps that actually do respectable damage, but they're deep water torps, so you can't torpedo destroyers with them, obviously, and they are kind of on the slow side. 59 knots is definitely nothing to write home about. Doesn't seem to be too much on this flank. Erland's going for the cap, so yeah, let's see if we can back them up. Be nice not to get spotted, but we do have smoke if that happens. I do have actually a decent number of cruisers. I was talking about that in my last video and also in the most recent podcast, that cruisers seem to be getting a bit squeezed, but I think that's more of a high tier problem. At the mid tiers, certainly it seems to be a healthier population. Right, there we go, some random Tirpitz thingy bombers, obviously seeing if somebody's AA would light up. Not that it spots you if your AA fires on them, but you can obviously see the AA traces so that you would know somebody is there. Right, Queen Elizabeth Normandy, we know the Tirpitz is over there. They also have a Bismarck somewhere who's spotted just as I say that. And is the Erland spotted? I guess so. What have they got? A Garo and a Gallant. It looks like both of them. Oh no, okay, they were radared by the Chapayev. They do actually have a Canarius. I don't think I've... Like, if you have either the Canarius or the Dido at this point, you have spent some money to get it, basically. So, given that we've only just started the second round of the tokens thing, there's probably someone who's spent a bit of their doubloons to get some of the necessary tokens. I really am reliant on A, things being spotted, and B, things being in range. I can't say I've had a tremendous amount of fun in this so far. I mean, I have played enough Atlanta, I think, to consider myself at least reasonably competent with what the Atlanta's playstyle is, but yeah, I think it's just the fact that I have a 6-point commander. You know, the Atlanta and the Flint are the same. If you don't have a sufficiently skilled commander, and some premium ships especially are like that, you really need a lot of commander perks to patch up holes to make them workable. And Atlanta is definitely that these days, and Chumphon definitely falls into that category as well. What a thrilling match so far for me. I'm actually getting spotting damage on somebody apparently. Right, this Tirpitz is almost within range, but then the island's going to be in the way, so that'll be annoying. I mean, I could just charge into the cap, but there's a Chapayev there who can negate my smoke. And although Chapayev radar doesn't last that long... Oh, I am spotted. That's probably someone coming through the middle. Yeah, the problem is that my smoke doesn't last that long either. It's only a 70-second smoke. So, yeah. Still potentially a significant percentage of my smoke time that's going to be Right, Erland's going off to that flank, and yes, somebody's spotting me there, which I don't like. That's got to be a destroyer. Oh, yeah, it's a destroyer in the count. That makes sense. Right, absolutely cannot hit any of those. And I don't think there's much point in me smoking right now, to be honest. Without some kind of spotting. Okay, that's both destroyers. That's the gallant that's gone in the cap then, clearly. Which conversely means it's probably fine for me to sneak in the B cap. If that's the gallant capping C. Man, the range on this is really inhibiting, and this is, along with the Elantra and the Flint and other sort of very short-ranged, high-angle ships of this nature, it's super map-dependent. And I really kind of do wish I had spawned on the other side. I think it would have given me better opportunities. Some maps in these ships, in the Atlanta, are just absolutely terrible. I mean, this at least you have at least some cover you can create for yourself. And you don't have quite the incredible hindrance of range that the
torpedoes to starboard.
Oh, see, now if I had hydro there,
torpedoes to starboard.
Not a lot I can do about that.
We've sprung a leak.
We're
Not filling
from,
up fast.
Yeah.
Smoke generator activated.
Tuka York's just about getting into range. Some fires or something. I'm kind of hoping to that's why I used that, to be honest. I'm half dead already. It's not even a particularly quick torpedo reload, to be honest.
Smoke screen set.
Right, so he's immediately disappeared. So that's fun, but there's a Canarius that's in range. I think we're going to have to use this oh, the Gallant's there. Right, that's actually good news for me. Would be if yeah, the rate of fire is not that great either. So that wasn't much of an opportunity to fire at that Gallant there, unfortunately.
Torpedoes
The sneakiness really wasn't worth that much, sadly. I mean, it just isn't if you don't have a destroyer that can spot you. I mean, your sneakiness is good for a cruiser, but there are very, very few, if any, destroyers that you will outspot. Yeah, I might just die here, to be honest. Where's the Canarius? I mean, it's an extremely fragile ship. Oh, I managed to completely miss. Yeah, I don't think I'm going to last too much longer somehow. I mean, I'm very close to getting smoke back, but 43 hit points and dead. Oh well. I shall watch how the rest of this one plays out and jump back in if anything particularly interesting is happening. Well, this is nearing to a close. Yeah, it's been kind of one-sided, to be honest. I mean, the teams have actually, in terms of trading damage and trading ships, been reasonably equal, but our team was way too passive in terms of actually trying to control the caps, and look where we are. Yeah, we're only just now trying to recap B, even though there was a whole cluster of ships down there. I mean, maybe I shouldn't have pushed in there, I don't know, but I was kind of expecting this bigger blob of ships to do something other than just mill around, but yeah, it hasn't worked out that way. And if there was to be some last-second miracle, well, it had better happen now, because otherwise we're in the dying seconds of this. We're finally capping B, but, you know, they're now flipping D even. And, yeah, we even had our Warspite go pink and, I think, get kicked from the match. Not entirely sure how they managed that. But, yeah, either... Like, I missed it, so either they were already on their sort of last legs in terms of having team damaged, or they just deliberately shot at a teammate enough to get themselves kicked and turn pink in the process. So, yeah, that was not ideal. I mean, the matchmaking was not bad, but the team was far too passive overall. And, yeah, in fact, yeah, I think that... Did they even just quit the game? I don't know. But they've actually managed to be completely bottom of the team, and I was far from the worst with my 20k damage, including some of the surviving ships. Oh dear. Oh well, I think our Erland was the one that was trying the most, and yeah, otherwise you're not going to make up for a team like that in something like the Chumphon. You're just not going to. It doesn't have the hit points, it doesn't have the armor. There's basically no survivability to it other than its ability to stay hidden. So let's try one more. So we have got two brothers, which might actually be an okay map. I think it used to be a better map for ships like this, but they changed bits of the topography, and there's not really the edges of the island that you can use in the same way anymore. So we'll see how it goes. This might not be nearly as good a map as I remember it being. And it's also a tier 9 game, but at least we've had 2 games in a row with no carriers, I suppose, so yay. What flank do I want to go on? Let's swing over this way. Again, there are some radars in play, but it might be a bit easier for me to... am I going to get past this Missouri? No, that's... Which way are you turning? Can't tell. I don't want to get T-boned by them. Kind of turning this way, but I don't think they're going inside the... Well, maybe they are, I don't know. Anyway, what was I saying? Radars, yes, so Riga and Baltimore, and we've got the Missouri, Seattle and Tallinn. So we actually have more radar. I mean, potentially their Chungmu could have a radar, but that's probably not likely. One radar difference between a team, like in the case of like 3 versus 2, I'm not so fussed about that. It's when you get one team having like 3 radars and the other team having no radars that then it becomes a bit of a problem. I don't think Wargaming's ever really taken any steps to address that. It's a long-standing peeve of mine, and I think the only reason that it isn't more of a problem is just because there are now enough radar ships in the game that they are common enough overall in the matchmaking queue for that imbalance to not happen too often. There are certainly some maps where if you've got one team with like even, you know, 1 radar versus 2 or 1 versus 3, it can make a huge difference in terms of map control and whether destroyers can actually contest the cap or not. Well, Akatsuki is just within range, but nothing else is. Okay. Seeing a Missouri starting off firing high explosive is not necessarily the best sign, but maybe they had the shell loaded and didn't notice. Because sometimes I do that. Sometimes I start a game and have the wrong thing loaded and just forget to switch. Well, the tricky thing about trying to hit destroyers is if they decide to accelerate suddenly. It's great at close range, but man, trying to hit them at anything other than close range Just with the sheer, even over the short range that these guns have overall, just the sheer flight time of these shells. It's tricky, and you can't quite pump the shells out in the same way that you can with a... I think it's actually got the slowest reload of the Flint and the Atlanta, 6.5. Yeah, it is worse than both of them. But I don't know, what would you rather be saddled with, the range of the Flint or the reload of the Chumphon? I think personally I'd rather have the extra range than the reload. I don't play my Flint very much outside of occasionally taking it into Narai. Right, Izumo, I could maybe get close enough to Pew Pew, but it had so little superstructure. George is heading away. Caracciolo I can hit, but they're not spotted. There's a Riga there as well. I'm going to take the risk and use one of my smokes and hope that I don't regret it.
Smoke generator activated.
Mayhem looks like they're getting radared to death. Which, I mean, we knew the Riga was there. That's the kind of situation where instead of hanging around in your smoke waiting to get radared, you kind of have to do the sensible thing and withdraw. Hit the Caracciolo just, but it looks like he's backing up. Which is a bit of a problem for me, because it doesn't take much for that to be out of range of these guns. Might be already almost out of range. Fire going on him at least. I don't know if that will stick from somebody else. What are you doing, enemy Chumphon? Presumably getting in position to do their own smoke. Right, we're almost out of time in terms of this. Kind of hope he does, because if he does, then he won't be in a position to spot me, but yeah, we're going to have to move. I hope there's no line of sight between me and him. Yeah, all shatters on the Izumo, not surprised. Right, battleships, we kind of need you to do things. Battleships. I was always taking a bit of a pounding. I kind of... Yeah, oh dear, Naked de Grossa. I really don't understand it. Like, if you're especially strapped for credits, then I guess okay. But, yeah, the fact that you even get a dispersion bonus for wearing a basic camo makes it almost a must-have, in my opinion. Out of range. Do I want to use another? I almost wish you had more smokes to work with, because you're so reliant on them. This doesn't have the twisty-turny abilities of any kind of open water cruiser. Yeah, I need to make sure it's worth my while before popping a smoke, basically. It's like the enemy Izumo just ploughed straight into a bunch of... yeah. Here's where having the extra concealment would be useful. Just because it will give me I could get a bit closer before deciding to whether there's going to be enough things in range. Where are they actually aimed at? Which bit of my smoke screen?
Smoke screen set.
I may just get radared right now.
Torpedoes to starboard.
Backing up, I think. Am I going to avoid these? Not all of them. Whoop! So I was trying to back into my... No, never mind, let's just keep accelerating. Chumphon can't spot me right now, so that's fine. I think it was the Riga that spotted me briefly there. At least I'm not a particularly high value target, although being a squashy target and low tier, some people will see that as being a high value target, unfortunately. Oh, hello Riga. Looks like we're winning the other flank, and we do seem to have them kind of locked in here, although our ships have managed to get themselves basically tied down in slightly awkward ways. I think. So, yeah. I don't know if we can keep holding this. Don't know. I'm not sure I like how this is looking overall. My being bottom tier definitely influences my ability, like in this ship, to affect the outcome significantly. Well, if somebody decides to put some heavy shells my way and RNG goes, yep, you're going to die, then there's not a lot I can do about it. Try not to give too much broadside here. See, backing up, yeah, that's just enough to... Just with the sheer amount of time these shells take to get anywhere. I have to laugh at the irony of someone calling themselves marksmen and being in a German battleship. Although it would be more ironic if they were in an Italian battleship, I suppose. And actually, a lot of that about German battleships these days is a kind of holdover from when they were genuinely cursed with terrible dispersion. And these days, it's, as far as I know, the same dispersion pattern as the American battleships use. It's still not especially fantastic, but it's not renowned for being... oh, we need more lead than that. Because, you know, may only be less than 12 kilometres away, but want to hit the bits that are actually going to do damage. See, I overcompensated there. That's going to do nothing. Right, that fire's going to stick. Keep an eye on that Georgia, though. Come on, De Grosso, we need you to... Not De Grosso, Izumo. I think I need to turn and start moving away. His health rapidly going down. Multiple fires. Okay, there we go. Might get myself into a position to make a drop there. This is, I think this is a case of discretion being the better part of valor and preserving our ship's victory points, myself and the Missouri. Talon's taking a bit of a risk going through the middle like that, but if they can just cap in that little gap there, there we go. Come on, reload, reload, reload. Yeah, definitely the one spotting. I can possibly spot the Georgia for the Missouri, but if I was that Missouri, I'd just be keeping myself alive. Okay, we've got the Nagato over here. Those two, I don't know how they're doing exactly. I can't see that fight. Although, oh, well, the Erland having died, that's obviously a good thing.
Our team has taken the lead.
Right, it's really tempting to smoke up right now. Well, that Georgia can run out of my range super quickly. I sort of need him to be coming this way. Although that would be a slightly scary prospect, because the Georgia's almost as fast as I am. Let's do it. We might even break 50k damage, and wouldn't that be nice? Oh, he's just hit his speed boost. I think we seem fairly on track to win this one. I think halfway off the screen here.
Smokescreen set.
Oh, he's killed his speed a bit. Oh, we're about to win this one on points as well. I didn't even notice that. Okay, we might not break 50k damage. It's going to be better than the previous match at least. You know, I didn't die. No 50k damage for me. Oh well. Yeah, having IFHE or even just Demo Expert I think would be immensely helpful. Would certainly help the performance being quite so lackluster as it is. But without that, unfortunately, it is a very lackluster ship. So, yeah, you're going to need at least 10-point captain for this, for it to be even somewhat non-frustrating. And without one, it is kind of frustrating, but yeah, even with a 10-point captain, it's still going to be kind of quite bare bones. There's still going to be other things that you'll want to go with it. Like maybe even survivability expert, which, you know, not ordinarily on a cruiser not going to be that useful, but an extra few thousand hit points on a ship like this, you know, it might get you through encounters with other cruisers and destroyers a bit better. Anyway, that's it for this one. Apologies for it being a bit low energy, but you know, it's a video. Hooray! And no cat interruptions this time. Also, hooray! Although probably to the disappointment of you all. If you have enjoyed it, you can do all the usual things down underneath the video, and of course, as always, stay tuned for more.